Don't Cross the Streams by Tom Seast. Origins. Someone passed along the advice, don't cross the streams, and that got me wondering about the origins of the phrase. After a bit of online investigation, it turns out to be a phrase from the 1984 film Ghostbusters. Dr. Spangler then informed the audience that it would be bad. And we've been concerned about crossing the streams ever since. But I'm not sure that this is the actual origin of the phrase. This then got me wondering if I had ever crossed streams during my life, and that brought me on a fantastic walk down memory lane. Babe. The phrase reminded me of the time way back in the year 2013 when my son Charlie and I decided to ride the length of the Mississippi River on our bicycles. I was a mere babe back then, and so was he, and we knew that we would have to cross many streams and rivers on the trip down from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico. But we decided to attempt it. Lake Itasca, Minnesota. When you start down the Mississippi River, you have no idea what to expect. We traveled as a family to Itasca State Park in Minnesota in August, with hopes of riding the first segment of 10 days. We parked our van and took our bicycles down to the stream that is the beginning of the Mississippi River, which flows out of Lake Itasca. We obeyed tradition and dipped both of our bicycle tires in the creek right at the mouth of the Mississippi. If memory serves, I weighed about 380 pounds at the beginning of that trip. Bridge 1. My dream at the beginning of the trip was to take a picture from the bridge each time we crossed the river on the road as we pedaled. We mounted our trusty iron steeds and headed north out of Itasca State Park. We passed the first bridge before we ever exited the state park, but the camera on my bicycle captured the beauty of the bridge. Bicycle Ranch. As soon as you exit the park, the first thing you have to do is start pedaling uphill. At the time, I didn't realize that this would be typical for each day of the trip, but we were riding in eagerness, knowing we had roughly 3,500 miles to ride. Near the top of the hill, I stopped to take a photo of this cool ranch gate that had bicycles mounted over it. Bridge 2. Not far down the road, we were able to stop on bridge number 2, which is the first bridge outside of the park. We didn't encounter any vehicle traffic on bridge number 2 and were able to stop and step off and take photos of the mighty Mississippi. We were a little disappointed at this stage as we had heard rumors that it was a much bigger river. After consulting our maps, we decided to press on in hopes of finding something bigger and better. Bridge 3. We continued on for a while and then turned to the east. It was on this stretch of riding to the east that we encountered bridge number 3. The Mississippi River had grown wider at this point and was starting to look larger as we had expected. The river ran clear and quiet and was beautiful. But the size of the river was still disappointing. Having grown up with many Chicago's Cub fans, we knew that lifelong disappointment could be overcome, so we decided to continue. Bemidji. We only crossed the stream 3 times that first day. Each time we crossed it, it got a little bigger. My average heart rate of 144 for the first 3 hours and 27 minutes of ride time indicates that it was a rougher day of pedaling for me. It was a beautiful day to ride with an average temperature of 81. Bridge 4. After spending a glorious evening sleeping and resting in Bemidji, we set out on the bicycle path around Lake Bemidji and crossed bridge number 4 on the east side of the lake. At this point in the river's journey south, the river was getting wider, was still shallow at points, and had a larger current. Bridge 5. Once we got on the road again, the residents of Minnesota had kindly repaved the road as a welcome to us foreigners, and we had smooth sailing until bridge number 5. As you can see from the picture, the river was much wider at that point. I started to recognize that maybe it was going to be a big river after all. Bridge 6. Bridge number 6 will always be a fond memory for me because it was so much higher off the water than the others. You could get a much better idea of the strength, the reserve, and the power that was growing from the small stream into the mighty river. We continued. Charlie and I continued our journey down the Mississippi, weeks at a time, as we could find time to continue the ride. Ultimately, we crossed lots of streams and rivers and never really did discover how it was bad. We learned a lot about each other and ourselves on the journey down the river over the next year. We did not ride a roughly 300-mile stretch between New Madrid, Missouri and Natchez, Mississippi. Hopefully my health will hold up and I'll be able to complete that stretch of the road. I'd also like to ride the entire river again, crossing the streams and taking even more photos. Because with most of my riding dreams, the river and the streams run through it. If you wish to read a more accurate accounting of the first part of my trip down the Mississippi River, you can read the original journal I recorded at crazyguyonabike.com. If you like my story and would like more of this whimsical stroll down memory lane, feel free to follow me at facebook.com/tom.ceased.